Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the B-oos.
For the B-oos.
Hi.
We're back. We had to take a week off.
We did.
Sorry, my grandfather died over the last weekend, and I will miss him. He was a great grandfather, but
He was.
anyways, sorry about putting it off for a week, but I just didn't really feel up to it, so we're doing it now. But this week we're going to do probably the only topic in over 100 episodes that legitimately freaks me out.
I'm so nervous.
This is the only topic that we've ever really done going into it that really makes me feel a type of way.
Yeah.
This is, I think, just in my opinion, this is the creepiest topic we've covered.
I haven't even read this. I have
But you know what they are.
idea, like what all of this entails, but I do know a little bit of the subject.
Well, you've watched some stuff with me about it.
Yes.
It's just a very unsettling thing.
It
honestly.
is. It is not a location.
No, it's a thing.
It is not a group.
It's almost like a cryptid, sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
Just depending. I don't know.
I
don't know what you would put it into the category of, but this week we are talking about the oh so scary
black-eyed children.
Yes, the black-eyed kids, and I didn't really know how this started, or when this started, or where this started until I looked it up. I knew about this. I've watched tons of stuff about it prior, like way before even doing the podcast.
We've watched a lot of stuff about the black-eyed children.
But I didn't really know any of the logistics behind it, I guess. Any of the like factual stuff about where it began and all that. So now I do. And now so do you, listeners. You're going to also get to learn this nightmarish topic with us. And it's honestly, it's a very interesting story. And there is a very interesting character in this story.
Okay.
There's a lot more to it than I really thought there was going to be. And this is going to be a two-parter.
What?
This week we're going to talk about it, and then at the end of it, I'll tell you what we're going to do next week.
All right.
But we will be coming back for this topic again next week. Originally, I wanted to release this episode right on top of the next one, but I've had so much going on. That this is just going to be Monday's episode. We're just going to have to eat the last week. But maybe down the road, we'll do something for fun in the middle of the week. Just
for funsies?
Just for giggles and stuffs. I try to keep it family friendly for the most part. You know, I always put the warning on here just in case, but be friendly about it. All right, so
sorry we missed a week, guys, but we are back.
We're going to be back on track, as long as nothing tragic happens again.
That's right. Let's hope not. And we missed you.
Yeah.
All of you booze crews peeps out there.
Yeah. We're back. And hey, shout out to the Patreons who were very understanding.
Yes. Thank you guys so much.
Joe and Teresa. We have a new one.
We do.
And you'll get another shout out at the end of the show because, you know, being part of the Patreon, helping support the show, it's a big deal. And we appreciate it.
You are very, very, very special to this show.
That's
so
right.
Thank you guys.
Well, let's not do the outro yet. Let's get into the story now. Amongst the most feared entities of all time, the black-eyed kids, or BEKs, are described as kids aged from about 9 to 16 with an otherwise normal physique and behavior, but completely dark and void of life in their eyes. Their eyes, without any distinguishable pupil, iris, or sclera, are pitch black, something like the evil entities from the Grudge movie. They appear in either normal or a bit old-fashioned clothes and are said to speak in a tone too mature for their age. They generally appear lost and helpless, showing up at your house or car, making a creepy, pleading request to be let in. For some reason, witnesses report feeling an inexplicable fear in their vicinity, even before noticing their black, lifeless eyes, and are mostly found fleeing the scene immediately. The children are believed to allegedly use some low-level hypnotism, People often report unconsciously letting them into their property right before noticing their eyes and thereby fleeing. Now, there are dozens of stories about pale kids with black, soulless eyes knocking late at night, usually in out-of-the-way areas, on people's front doors and begging to be let in. Quote,
"For the first time, I noticed their eyes. They were coal black, no pupil, no iris."
These words came from a journalist named Brian Bethel.
On January 16th, 1998, Bethel posted an online message board describing his apparent encounter with a pair of creepy children who had solid black eyes. Since then, dozens of people have claimed sightings of similar children, but Bethel's case remains the most famous. On a spring or summer evening in 1996, Bethel was making his way to his internet service provider, Camelot Communications office on North 1st Street in Abilene, Texas, to pay off his bills. As he innocently scribbled on a check in the dimly lit area before the theaters, intending to drop it in the office's drop slot, little did he know that this was to be his most frightening night ever. He was seated in his car at the parking lot when two boys, aged 9 to 12, came knocking at his window. The boys, as he described them, were, quote,
"A somewhat suave, olive-skinned, curly-headed young man and a red-headed, pale-skinned, freckled young man."
The boys wore hooded pullovers. The first boy explained that the two of them had come to watch a premiere of Mortal Kombat at the theater, but had forgotten their money at their mother's house. They therefore requested a ride to their mother's house to get their money and get back to the theater. All the while, as the conversation ensued, Bethel was consumed by an irrational fear. The boys tried to convince him with assurances like, quote,
"It wouldn't take long. They were just two little kids. They didn't have a gun or anything."
Bethel subconsciously reached out to open his car door when he suddenly broke his vision of the boy and came to notice his coal-black eyes. Eyes he described as, quote,
"The sort of eyes one sees these days on aliens or bargain basement vampires on late-night television. Soulless orbs like two swaths of starless night."
Trying to keep his behavior normal, Bethel muttered a few excuses, pulled at the gear, and rushed away with his car. As he stared at the rearview mirror, he found that the children had just vanished within seconds. Bethel also recalled that when he rolled up his window, one of the boys banged on the glass saying, quote,
"We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay."
"Let us in."
Bethel's incident had allegedly taken place from 9:30 to 10 p.m. that night, an incident he could never forget. Bethel began sending private emails to a trusted few about his experiences. Soon, his story spread like wildfire on the internet. Thus, the personal experience of this famed journalist was soon shared by thousands of others. Some legit, some fake, but enough for the BEKs to be regarded as a modern paranormal phenomenon.
Bethel isn't the only person with a creepy story involving these black-eyed children. The internet is full of similar stories. Reddit user Sarah Beth 11 wrote how she was sitting alone in her family room when there was a light knock at the front door. Two children were outside, a girl who looked to be about 11, and a boy who was roughly 9. Quote,
The girl very politely spoke up. Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom? As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong.
After a short exchange, the girl moved towards the door.
She stepped into the light coming from inside the house, and I got my first really good look at her. Solid, jet black eyes. That's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone and replaced by a terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and the back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where my face was able to stick out. The little girl stopped and again pleaded. Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us. Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry.
Another Reddit user, appropriately named No Sleep 2012, also claims to have encountered black-eyed children on her doorstep. Quote,
She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said,
We have to use your phone.
I stood frozen in fear. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door. Lucy, my dog, still cowering at my ankles. She became commanding, almost hostile.
We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. Maybe come inside and use your phone?
Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backwards, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back towards the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in.
the Reddit user says she didn't go back to sleep that night, and she hasn't slept right since. And this is where we're going to stop. It's going to be kind of an early ad break. There is the story kind of explaining where the origin of all of this really comes from. And kind of, well, I don't know if it's like really, you be the judge of it, okay? Because there's going to be a lot of claims coming up in this next, like, half or 3/4 of the show, or whatever you want to call it, that are very weird.
Oh, God.
And this guy is either the greatest paranormal investigator of all time or the craziest person I've ever heard about.
Oh, my gosh.
He is, I'd like to meet him. I think he sounds like he'd be kind of cool, but there's just, so far, like, this is on brand, though, with, like, how I feel about the black-eyed kids is, like, they show up at your house at night. It's always at night, and it always seems to be these houses or cars that are either out in the back of a parking lot or a house that, like, out in the woods.
Just away from things.
Do you remember watching that one video where there was, like, this house out in the woods, and it was, like, a porch, and the light kept coming on, and he couldn't figure out why, and then like, a teenage boy knocked at his door and was like, I need you to let me in?
I most certainly do, because as soon as you told me we were doing this as an episode, that is immediately the video that came to my head.
That's always the first one I think of.
So creepy.
So
so creepy. And, like, you have to invite them in.
You don't have to.
Like, well, you know what I mean.
As a matter of fact,
like,
I'm going to encourage anybody listening, if one of these kids shows up at your house, do not let them in.
Absolutely not.
Send them home. They're old enough. If they're between 9 and 16,
They can figure it out.
or tell them you'll contact the authorities for them or something.
No.
What's your mom's phone number? I'll call her from inside the house. You stay out there. The odd thing is, though, there never really seems to be any accounts of like physical altercations or like, you know how, like, you'll have people who claim they were abducted by aliens, which I'm not saying one way or the other if they were or not, but the people who claim and they have stories of being abducted by aliens.
Right.
And they say, like, I was operated on. But it seems like with the black-eyed kids, they just come to your house and really creep you out.
Yeah, like just a super creepy, oppressive
Yeah.
thing that happens.
It's like their whole job is to just really just make you not be able to sleep ever again.
Ugh. No, thank you.
So, I mean,
I have enough trouble.
I don't. I sleep like a brick. I just wake up so sore every day because I'm getting old. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it right here and take an ad break. But what do you think so far?
I don't like it.
Like
at all.
I thought you were going to say you don't think.
No, I don't like it. I think it is so creepy. And like, I love the paranormal. I love, like
I like
spirits
learning
and,
about
like,
it. I wouldn't say like I
stories, and
love it.
it just hits different. I don't know.
It's because there's so many videos and pictures out there that look legit.
Oh, and I just keep seeing them all in my head as we're reading this, and I don't like it.
It's very creepy. But anyways,
so bad.
I'm right there with you. Like, this topic is just one of the ones that really, like, because I stay up a lot by myself at night.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
like,
have to be up so early in the morning and go to bed like.
Well, it's not like I'm not
like an old lady.
I'm not like up till 2 a.m. I stay up till like 11:30, and I come to bed with you. But like, I listen for things outside. And like, after I did the research for this one, I noticed I've been listening more.
Oh, I bet.
I bet. Creepy.
Ugh.
But yeah, so this is a topic that's freaked me out for years now.
Well, luckily we live in like a townhouse area, so there's lots of neighbors, and
I don't think that matters.
It's not super rural, I guess, where they seem to kind of go.
This week we're just learning the backstory of these, but next week's going to be different. Next week's going to be where the real creep factor comes in. So let's go ahead and take a break. And when we get back from these ads that we didn't choose, making cents on the dollar, we'll get back to the story.
And now, Boost Crew, back to this creepy episode. Lee Brigley, a man who claims to have seen dead people since the age of 10, and also claims he has met the black-eyed children, among other claims, wrote on the mirror.co.uk. Letting children watch movies like Ghostbusters at the age of 5 is risky business. Some kids will get scared and hide from behind the sofa. Others will keep their bedroom light on all night for weeks. Me, I saw a career path. I might not have a proton pack or a catchy theme tune, but over the last 10 years, I've become one of UK's leading real-life Ghostbusters. At least, that's what Iman Holmes called me on ITV's this morning during an interview about black-eyed child sightings at Cannock Chase. I can't give Hollywood Films all the credit for my interest in the paranormal, though. While they definitely opened my eyes to the strange and unusual, it was a series of experiences in my childhood home that cemented my obsession at 10 years old. When sitting in the living room during the evening hours, I would often see shadows moving slowly across the walls behind our sofa. My father would see them too, although he'd talk about something else to draw my attention away. There was another time when I walked into the kitchen in the middle of the night, and a single cup was violently swinging from side to side under a cupboard. It was hanging from a hook alongside multiple other cups that were all motionless. Years later, I learned that my great-uncle died in that house, and my father now tells me he believes our deceased relative was behind the haunting. I grew up in a small mining town near Cannock Chase, a large spooky forest in Staffordshire, where people have seen ghosts and all manner of supernatural creatures for many years. It therefore seemed logical for someone with my interests to investigate these sightings further, and that's precisely what I've done. So far, I have written and published 4 books on the subject of weird happenings in the area, and my latest title, Ghosts of Cannock Chase, Terrifying Reports of Paranormal Activity from the UK's Most Haunted Town, is selling exceptionally well. According to many locals, the woodland is home to spirits, werewolves, black-eyed children, a pigman, and allegedly even Bigfoot. During my investigations, I've interviewed lots of seemingly genuine people who claim to have seen something scary in the forest, and have even had a couple of unexplainable encounters of my own. In April 2018, I believe I saw the infamous black-eyed child in an area of Cannock Chase called Birch's Valley. She appeared around 100 meters in front of me, stared right at me for about 30 seconds, and then vanished without a trace.
The paranormal investigator is said to have scoured a Staffordshire beauty spot following chilling sightings of the phenomenon known locally as the black-eyed child. Lee launched an in-depth investigation of Cannock Chase after reports that the ghoulish apparition has returned to the sprawling heathland. The child was last spotted 30 years ago, sparking worldwide interest, and is today a cult internet sensation. The latest description of the girl, who has coal-black pits for eye sockets, are identical to those chronicled in the early 1980s. Lee, author of books about the paranormal, was stunned recently when he received a new eyewitness account of the black-eyed child. Alerted by what sounded like screams, a shocked woman came across the wandering, sightless specter while walking Birch's Valley.
We instantly started running towards the noise. We couldn't find the child anywhere, and so stopped to catch our breath. That's when I turned and saw a girl stood behind me, no more than 10 years old, with her hands over her eyes. It was as if she was waiting for a birthday cake. I asked if she was okay, and if she had been the one screaming. She put her arms down by her side and opened her eyes. That's when I saw they were completely black. No iris, no white, nothing. I jumped back and grabbed my daughter. When I looked again, the child was gone. It was so strange.
On his paranormal website, Lee, 28 at the time and himself being from Cannock, said the woman's experience mirrors the earlier sighting. Quote,
"In the summer of 1982, my aunt was 18 years old, and she and her friends would often meet on Cannock Chase in the evening time, probably in much the same way teenagers still do today. One evening, just before dark, she heard a little girl frantically shouting for help. Rushing to locate the sound, she stumbled upon a dirt track and caught sight of the girl, about 6 years old, running in the opposite direction. When my aunt caught up, the girl turned around and looked in her eyes, and then ran off into the dark woodland. Her eyes had been completely black with no trace of white. There was a police search, but to no avail. At the time, no one had any reason to believe anything paranormal was going on. The girl certainly appeared to be of flesh and blood. Some people believe them to be extraterrestrials, vampires, or ghosts, but there is one big difference between the sightings around the world and the stories coming out of Cannock Chase. Only on Cannock Chase do the sightings consistently happen during the daytime. In the US, many reports suggest the black-eyed children often appear in groups, regularly knocking at the doors of unknowing victims and asking quietly if they may come inside.
Black-eyed children fever ultimately hit the internet on February 2013, when a 2-minute video episode of Weekly Strange, featuring a look at these strange, punitive beings, was posted to the entertainment section of the MSN website. But as the Inquisitor noted, the video and other sources of information about black-eyed children were far from convincing, going on to say that the brief video looks like an amateur hour version of Unsolved Mysteries, which details the phenomenon and name drops a handful of conspiracy and cryptology websites. Google black-eyed children, and you're not much better off. The first handful of results belong to the Examiner and Mysterious Universe, and none of them exactly take what we'd call a fully skeptical view of the subject. Further down, there's a laughably bad journal of the bizarre post that claims to debunk the black-eyed children phenomenon with pseudo-biological and pragmatic arguments that sometimes seem about as far-fetched as there being black-eyed children in the first place. Their conclusion was to file black-eyed children under the same heading as Bigfoot. Believe it if you'd like, but realize that there is no evidence of their existence, just subjective testimony that ranges from reasonable to suspiciously fame-whoring. The real mystery, in my opinion, is why this topic made MSN's front page where it started to trend, fooling people into thinking that it's real news. The appearance of the black-eyed children video on MSN seems to have coincided with the release of Black-Eyed Kids, an urban legend-based horror film.
Vancouver director Nick Hagan's horror series, Haunted Sunshine Girl, was a hit on YouTube, with more than 10 million views and 20,000 subscribers at the time. The movie, Black-Eyed Kids, a spin-off of that series, had been in the works for about a year. It takes the characters from Sunshine on an adventure, as they investigate the origins of the occult legend of the Black-Eyed Kids. The story in the film is fictional, but reports of Black-Eyed Kid sightings, especially in and around Portland, are very real, Hagan said. Quote,
Black-Eyed Kids is an urban legend that's been floating around on the internet for years now. I always thought it was fascinating.
It's been a fun legend to play with, said Mercedes Rose, who co-produced the film with Hagan. Quote,
We're the first film group to do anything with these black-eyed kids legend,
said Rose, who also acts in the production. Quote,
We're super excited for people to see it. It's so creepy.
In the film Sunshine, played by a teen actress who asked that her name be withheld to protect from online stalkers, has a friend contact her after somebody he knows vanishes. Suspecting that the Black-Eyed Kids myth has something to do with it, Sunshine and others go to Portland to look for video proof. Quote,
They find a black-eyed kid, but they discover something a lot more evil than they imagined, and they try to get out alive.
But what are these entities really? Sharon Day, on the website ghosthuntingtheorize.com, wrote a great breakdown of how to rationalize this topic and a few possibilities of what they could be in 2016, just a few years into the craze. Black-eyed children have been the talk of many para groups and curious readers who wonder, just what's going on here? I cannot tell you if black-eyed kids exist, but I can say that there have been a lot of witness accounts, and they seem to have many features that ring familiar among them. Sometimes, when I have not had a personal encounter with a subject, it's best for me to just say, if this happened, how did it happen? What are black-eyed children? Well, some say it started as an urban legend, but with steadily more and more reports of people seeing them. This reminds me of the shadow people phenomena. It was not widely spoken of until more modern times, but those who have seen them are in great numbers. You have to eventually begin to take these people's reports under study. Black-eyed children follow a scenario. They are children with no whites to their eyes, pure black eyes, and pale skin. They are often soulless in personality. BEKs approach adults in public places, or even knock at your door and ask to be let in, or ask for assistance. But the adult feels uneasy, as if there is something not right about the child. The child tries to avoid his or her eyes, so you don't see them. And they are sometimes said to possess some level of mind control or mesmerizing qualities. Perhaps the best way to look at this phenomena is to listen to a witness encounter and then knock around some possible explanations.
A man was going to camp alone in Michigan for some quiet time away from his busy life. He stopped at a rest stop bathroom before he was going to head out onto the trail. What he encountered changed his mind quickly. He entered the bathroom to hear some kids murmuring. When they looked up, he was shocked. Quote,
"The goddamn kids have completely black eyes. No whites to their eyes at all. This is a pretty small bathroom, and there were not more than 3 feet away. At first, I can't do or say anything. I'm literally frozen with fear. The water runs over my hands, but I can't feel it. I'm so deep inside my head at this moment that all I can hear are my thoughts, which were something like, ah!" All joking aside, I was petrified. It was only when one of the kids, a brown-haired boy that I would guess was around 12, took a step toward me that my fight-or-flight instincts took over control from my fear. I turned off the water. Why I bothered it, I don't know. Habit, I guess, and moved a step back from the kids and toward the door. Seemingly sensing my fear, the boy didn't take another step toward me. Instead, he stopped. On retrospect, I guess he was trying to keep from frightening me too much. Didn't work, kid. "Can you help us?" That's what the boy said when one of us finally spoke.
The man said he couldn't and rushed to his car to drive off and away from a feeling of utter threat and dread. This feeling of dread is a continued theme among BEKs and also in the presence of shadow people. Considering the human body as a fair barometer of, quote, weirdness, paranormal activity, and threat, these two beings producing similar reactions is telling.
Possible explanations. Alien? Understandably, when something seems otherworldly, aliens become the catch-all explanation. But why would aliens need to masquerade as a child who is asking for assistance? If an alien could do such shape-shifting, why would they feel the need to pretend to be children? Why not imitate your wife and walk right in the door? There are some holes in the idea of them being aliens, the greatest being motivation. Why? What could they accomplish in child form? No one has reported an end goal of the interactions. Maybe they're the spirit of a murdered child? In this explanation, the fact that they are children makes sense. We would equate a ghost of a child to be child-sized. We would not necessarily equate them with being able to hitch rides, tug on someone's jacket to get attention, or hang out in places a dead child spirit would not hang out, like the rest stop in the previous story. They do ask for assistance or want entry into a car or home, but they do not seem to be in any distress, and they often come in pairs or groups, which is a most odd behavior for a specter. As these beings repeat questions and seem almost automated, they do not show signs of ever having been human, just an automaton. Demons, perhaps? The black figures, odd size, and feelings they elicit make people jump to the demon explanation immediately. They do not seem to have a deadly agenda, just an unsettling one. A demon would surely get right to the point of its intentions if such a thing exists. The fact that these little people are insistent, but rather passive, does not show a lot of signs of true threat, only implied because they are so odd. Shadow person? I will throw this one out there. There is another 3 to 4 foot tall being that's purely black among us. Shadow people. Shadow people seem to curiously want to watch us, but freak out when we see them. What if one donned a human skin appearance? The only thing on them that would remain black is in the eye sockets. They could move among us without suspicion or detection as something other, and would carry that sense of dread and doom we have when we run into shadow people, or BEKs. Well, it's a consideration. Ultimately, like many other unexplained activities, we can't even prove that BEKs exist. So all we can do is suppose. If they do exist, what are they? The study of their behaviors and detailed witness encounters help give us many clues to understanding. Science writer Sharon A. Hill investigated a topic and was unable to find any documentation of black-eyed children encounters, concluding that the tales are passed on as, quote, friend of a friend, ghost stories. Hill considers the legend to resemble typical spooky folklore stories, such as the phantom black dog, where the subject is not supernatural, and there may have never been an actual original encounter. So it seems we may never know the truth about these black-eyed kids, but one thing we know for sure is stories of them are still reported to this day. If you've never had a run-in with one of these creatures, then we agree it would be hard to rationalize this as real. As for those who do claim to have had a run-in with them, they seem to be absolutely convinced of these beings being real. It's up to you to decide for yourself. Just be careful if your doorbell rings one night and a child asks to come inside.
Hey, how are you?
Things aren't always as they seem.
And that's Black-Eyed Kids. And
Is it real?
but you don't actually get to answer that because we're not doing that till next week.
I was like, that was so fast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I figured it would throw you off. We're not going to actually do that until after next week because next week's episode is going to be all the stories we can find of people's encounters with black-eyed children from across the internet.
Oh god.
You know, normally that's not something that I would do as an episode, but there are so many stories, and I mean, right away I know that some of them are fake, but some of them may not be.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who have claimed to have seen, interacted with, let them in their house, stuff like that. The biggest thing about these creatures is that I guess I never really questioned where they came from or how long they had been around.
Right.
But until the first guy, I can't remember his name now because I already closed out the story, but the very first guy that posted it to a message board seems to be the origin of where this all starts. However, the paranormal investigator in Cannock Chase seems to tell a story where it goes back,
Even farther.
it's almost 40 years now.
Right.
So where did it really start?
Why?
It's one of them.
Did it start?
It's one of them things. It's like, where does it really start? Because I can tell you for sure it popularized, and it was like 2012, 2013. That's when it really
Oh yeah, I
became a
remember.
thing.
I remember.
But that's when it really became a thing. Like, it was being reported on the news, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was as big a deal as, the people dressing up like clowns.
I was gonna say that.
You gotta be
Oh my
quicker.
gosh, like the clown people who just like stand in fields and like chase people and stuff.
Yeah.
It was all over the news. It was everywhere.
Funny, a couple of them got beat up and shot, and they don't do that anymore.
I know.
Yeah. Good going, guys.
I don't know about this. This is
Well, you're not going to answer real or not today. We're not
know.
doing that.
It's so.
But when you go to bed tonight, if you
Creepy.
hear a little tappy tap on the window,
Can you stop? Because I do hear stuff outside when I go to sleep. Because
we sleep
people
on
are,
the second floor.
I know, but I go to bed early. People are still outside, like moving around and like doing their thing.
I'd have to be the one worried about the knock on the door, not you.
I just.
But yeah, so it's
And
that.
like-
I told you that guy is a very interesting guy. He claims he's met them. He claims all these other like really strange cryptids, and this dude is like he's for real. Like he really believes. He really believes.
I mean, maybe, but
I guess I've never heard of UK Bigfoot before.
No.
Until today.
me either.
That's
I
a
always
first.
thought that was like a U.S. thing.
Yeah, it started as like a United States like northwestern, like
Yeah, in like specific
northwest
areas. Yeah.
and now it's like it's everywhere in the U.S. Down Florida they call them what do they call them, swamp apes or something?
Yes, that's exactly what they call
and
them.
They have them everywhere now. Even Massachusetts, California, Washington, Oregon.
Yeah, but
everywhere.
Massachusetts just thinks they're puckwudgies.
No. They think there's Bigfoots and Puckwudgies.
I can't with the puckwudgies, man.
Little glowing orb trolls, whatever. But yeah, so that's where we're gonna leave it for now. Okay, I mean, I know that this topic creeps me out just because of the things that I've seen. Mm-hmm. But I honestly don't know where I stand as far as whether or not I think they're real, which is why I want to read people's stories on the internet.
And I encourage all of you Booze Cruise members, if you have never seen any videos or anything really,
Well, then go over to
even
our
a picture,
TikTok because I've posted some stuff recently.
that, and just kind of do your own research. Maybe like get an image in your head of like what we're talking about and why we're just so like, oh, this is creepy. It's wild. It's a
really crazy topic, and like the story said, the people who believe in it really believe in it.
Yeah.
Like the people who say they've had encounters really believe they've had an encounter. So
Well, I would too if I saw something like that.
I mean,
like,
but
come
if,
on.
But what if it's just like you're tired and it's just really just a kid that needs a ride, and you're like, no, man, you creeping me out, dude. You're 9. It's 12. You're 9, dude. It's 12 o'clock at night. You gotta like drive home, dude. Like, you gotta get out of here, bro.
You busted the surfer boy voice
I
out.
did. Like, I got some burritos. I gotta make, bro. All right, dude. Later. But all right, so that's where we're gonna leave it. We are gonna come back next week with the stories of the black-eyed kids. And again, I apologize for taking the week off. I know we said we weren't gonna do it anymore, but I appreciate everybody's understanding.
Absolutely.
And where can they find us?
Well, not near the black-eyed children, that's for sure.
You don't know that.
They can find us on Facebook at For The Booze and on Instagram at For The Booze_podcast.
You can also find us on Twitter at For The Booze, on YouTube at For The Booze, on TikTok at For The Booze, and people, listener stories, listener suggestions, and just, internet hugs, whatever.
Yeah, we love all that.
ForTheBooze12 at gmail.com. And don't forget, if you'd like to be a supporter of the show, you can now, join the Patreon movement, if you would like to call it that. It's small, but the people we got supporting us are amazing.
They are. And we appreciate
amazing.
you guys so very much. We appreciate all of you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if
However,
you listen to the show, most of you
we're
guys are
getting
probably
some
OGs.
besties over here, okay?
and we're going to shout them out now, and both are in the producer level. We've got the ever so faithful and the glorious Joe Mattern. Joe Mattern.
Joe
Mattern matters to me. And then our newest member is Teresa O'Donnell.
Hey, what's up, girl?
Teresa, that's my aunt's name.
It is.
That's a great name. And your last name is very close to my great-grandmother's name.
Well, thank you, both of you, for being super duper supportive of what we love to do.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to join them, and I mean, honestly, if they wanted, they could just be like, we want to hear this topic, and I would do it.
100%.
So if you'd like to have that
Absolutely.
kind of power, or say, Stephen, you talk too much on the show, make Megan read it all. That's fine. Hey,
No,
if you're a Patreon, we'll listen to you because you're really helping support the show. So.
Excuse me, Patreon besties. Do not do that. Do not do that.
Oh, but I guess this is where we're going to leave it for this week. I don't think I have anything else to go off about.
I don't think so either.
Okay. Well, where can they, or not where can they find us?
Whoa, where are we going in circles?
I have this whole board in front of me I have to manage at the same time. All right, get us out of here so we can go.
Well, thank you everybody so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye. Lock up your doors. The bee cave's going to come lick your feet. Whoa.